Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I'm your host, Teri Wellbrock, and so very happy to have with me today Christine Ruch, and she is Transformation Guide, and I love the slogan, Empowering Your Health Awakening. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, for sure. We had such a great little conversation before hitting record. So
Yeah.
I'm ready to dive in and learn from you. One of the things we had talked about, and let's just clarify for folks ahead, like at the beginning, we hear a lot about coaching and people coaching others, but I love that you're a transformation guide. So you just gave me an explanation of what the difference is between the two.
Yeah, a guide and a coach. So it feels to me like a guide a coach has like a program, they have a trajectory that has a particular time frame in mind, and they have a framework and a structure that everybody in that program follows the exact same program for the exact same dictated amount of time to achieve an expected result. And a guide is a little bit different. I don't have a framework. My framework is to support you in your healing path. And the framework shifts and changes with each person depending upon where they are in their healing journey, the type of support that they need, the type of direction that they're most inspired to go in and lead their own healing path. And so I think as a guide, it's not about my agenda, it's about me supporting your agenda and empowering you to discover your own agenda and empowering you to step into your own healing path. And that makes all the difference because I'm not the leader, you're the leader. And this is your health, it's not my health. But I'm here to watch you transform, and that witnessing process where you're constantly being reflected into your strengths and your wisdom and your knowledge, and you're constantly empowered to step into what you already know is true for you, is sometimes the thing that makes the hugest difference in the transformation process. It's a transformation born from within and not change dictated from an outside sort of program or modality.
Yeah, I love that because I know as I've traveled my own healing journey, like especially listening to my own intuitive wisdom and learning to listen to that. And that was one of the things I had seen that you offer to folks. Now, do you offer intuitive guidance, or are you helping guide them to like listen to their own intuitive, that voice, that higher self, whatever, all the different labels we can put on that?
I love that question. I think it's a combination of both. Sometimes I'm sure that you feel this way as well. Like I might have an intuition about somebody's wellness, state of wellness, but if they're not ready to hear it or receive it, and they're not in a place that is available to them, it doesn't really ring as true if I share that prematurely. So it's not really my place to share those type of things. However, in this process of your health awakening, you start to come to certain truths on your own. And then as you share this new truth or this new layer or this new realization or this new connection with something, then I meet you right where you're at, and I validate and I expand on what it is that you are noticing or experiencing to deepen your connection to that new truth that you have just come into yourself. So I guess, I don't know if that answers the question,
Yeah,
but I mean, I think that for sure, especially from the outside in, sometimes we can always, not always, but often, especially in this work, working with people, we can perceive the things that they can't. But it's not my place because that would be getting ahead of you in your journey. And if that's not where you are, then it's not going to be received. And in fact, it may even alienate us, because that's not, you just want to be seen for where you are currently and applauded and supported for where you are exactly in that moment and who exactly you are today. And so it doesn't really matter if what I see. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. And I only want to support what you see and deepen your own truth and in every moment that you are experiencing it.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I mean, brilliant insights, because what you're talking about is like what I heard was is people recognize their truths. It's there. They're just not seeing it yet. And
Yeah.
if you present it, then they don't see it as a truth because
Yeah.
it's not yet their truth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Very
Exactly.
cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I
And
know. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, and sometimes when we change the way we work with people and they come into their own truth, and then we validate that truth, and then we create an opportunity for them to deepen and embody that truth, right? So to go from this thinking thing into this totally embodied belief, then suddenly that builds on new truths emerging more quickly within them as they sort of start to turn on the faucet of truth and it starts to flow, then all of a sudden more connections are made more quickly, and then the embodiment of the truths happen more organically, as the case may be. And so I think me titrating that experience and always being available for that process as it unfolds for each person is kind of where the magic is.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And there's times I know along my own healing journey where I almost had to like sit in my truth a little bit, like, is this is this real? Is this what I'm wishing? Is it, like, and so just being able to like be with it and yeah, but to have somebody there alongside you saying, not confirming, but again, we talked beforehand of holding their hand and being like, or just being there to validate, I guess is the word I was looking for. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think validation, and I also love what you said about sitting with it because I like to use a similar term about it has to settle in your system. And that's kind of this embodiment thing where you go from this mental like aha to it filters down and becomes an embodied sense of truth that you can't change. It's permanent. It's a permanent state of being and it has to settle in your system. And so sometimes that settling in the system can feel ungrounding. It can feel disconcerting because you are wondering, like, where is this coming from? Is this true? Is this real? Is this not? You're questioning. And so if we can hold this steady space of encouragement and witnessing and validation and love and trust and hope and belief and expansion while this truth is settling in their system, then it's kind of can't be budged out of their system after that happens.
Yeah. And what's crazy? It just popped in my head. This is maybe going a little down the rabbit hole, but I know that for me, again, uh, I had things that I thought were my truths, like I am broken. Like I thought I was just like, oh, I experienced this horrible trauma. I'm forever going to have panic attacks. I'm forever going to be broken. And that was my truth at the time. But then I realized, oh, but it wasn't a truth. It was just a label. It was something, that I had given myself. And then again, as I learned, it was so then I love the idea, like you said, if it's kind of coming in and it's like as it settles in there, that old thing is like, oh, I don't have room for that. Boop, out it goes.
Yeah, I 100%. But what I really love about that, and I'm curious about your opinion because we both love this idea of nervous system and trauma work and things like that. But like, I feel like one of the things that I try to encourage is building emotional capacity. And I feel like sometimes back to that belief structure that we would both hold, that's not true, even though it feels like a truth at the time. But like, if that's a story that's built on a fallacy based upon an emotion that was scary to feel, that was something we didn't have a good relationship with, something that got lodged in our system, and then we created a story around that emotional state because we didn't actually know how to have the capacity to hold that emotional state and recognize that just because we hold an emotional state doesn't mean we are that emotional state, that we are more than that. We are all of that, and we are none of that. And so when we can create some distance from our emotional experiences and recognize that the emotional experience is just part of the human experience, but that doesn't necessarily define us. And a lot of people create these stories in these narratives of their truth based upon these fallacies that are rooted in a disorganization of their relationship with their emotional, with their ability to experience and hold emotions in that capacity. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Is that kind of
Yeah.
esoteric?
100. And again, just I keep coming back to me, but this is how
Yeah,
I understand it.
yeah,
So with me, I did a tremendous amount of healing work from somatic. I did EMDR therapy for 4 years, and just all the things, right? Nature baths and mindfulness and meditation
yeah,
and blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
And one of the things that kept coming up over and over and over was, Teri, you have to deal with your anger. Teri, you have to deal with your anger. Teri, you have to deal with your anger. And I just was in absolute denial. Like, I'm not angry. I don't carry anger. I'm this joyful, happy person. I've done all my healing work. And then my skin started having this horrific rash, and it was psoriasis. But it came to be that even though I did all this like amazing healing work on it, it's I've come to realize it was my anger, and my skin was screaming for a release. And so, I mean, this can kind of lead us, to the conversation of your personal journey and what led you to what you're doing. But um, you're right. Like, my body didn't know how to contain, like, hold that, and didn't know quite what to do with it. So I think it just kind of squished it all down. And then finally it reached a point where it was like, ah, yeah. So,
Wow, that is so powerful, actually, what you said, because I totally believe that to be true. Like sometimes we bypass the difficult emotions because we don't know how to hold those. We don't know how to identify with those. It's very confusing for us and our system. And we don't have a context for that in our culture and our society. And it's hard to find relationships that actually foster that sense of safety and exploration as we explore our full emotional landscape. And so then we kind of bypass those difficult emotions and then dive into those emotions that make us feel good. And I think like that's not actually how the emotional terrain within us works. Like you have to experience all of them. You can't just like pick and choose the ones that you want to be good at knowing and good at developing and bypass or suppress the ones that cause us uncomfortable feelings that we don't know how to contend with. And the funny thing is like they do want to come out. And so like for you, it came out in your body. And for me, they came out in my body as well. I did the exact same thing. I like tried so hard to cultivate positivity and live a life of I have a very positive attitude as a person. I think that's definitely one of my blessings, but I couldn't expand into the fullness of that true part of who I was without also exploring the anger and the things that were more difficult for me to express or own or see. Like I almost wanted to bypass those, shut those off, put those down. And also, I didn't have a lot of emotional range. You know what I mean? Like I didn't
yeah.
recognize the full range of emotions. And I had like a therapist give me a wheel of emotions and had like a wheel of like a million different colors. And I was just like looking at it with just like shock and awe because I only had like two, either anger and furious anger or like happiness that was probably a somewhat false happiness, because I wasn't ever able to reach or feel these darker sides of me that was scary. I didn't have access to those emotional states.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we're so similar. I had the same thing. A therapist gave me this wheel, and I was like,
It's not the
what are
best.
some of these? Like, I'm a
I
smart
did
person.
too.
Like,
I was like, I'm supposed to experience all of this. I was like, what does that even mean? It was like Greek to me.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
for me, now that I've done a lot of work, my dad, who I adored and loved, with all of my heart, but he, until he got therapy and help and stopped, was incredibly violent, very filled with anger in my first 10 years of life. So I experienced physical abuse and so to me, I think my little 10, my little body said, "Oh, we can never get mad. We can never experience anger because then we'll become that monster. Like we'll become that." Not realizing there's this range, like there's healthy expressions of anger, right? And wasn't until I was 50 something that I was like, "Oh, wait a minute. I can be mad. It's okay." Yeah.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's so true. And how we create these coping mechanisms in childhood to keep us safe. And then those coping mechanisms that kept us safe, and we build a story about, we create a belief structure about, and then we make decisions based upon that new identity. And all of that is actually built on trauma in experience as a child that was never allowed to be expressed or fully felt or fully processed or fully moved from our experience, as we're supposed to move through emotions, not harbor them deep into our body, until they
Yeah.
express as multiple sclerosis or psoriasis or any number of other ways in which the human body mysteriously, magically is able to talk to you and tell you, like, you need to pay attention. I'm trying to tell you something.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so very true. Well, you brought up multiple sclerosis, and so can you share your personal
Yeah.
journey of what led you to this beautiful work you're doing?
Yeah. Thank you so much. It is a real honor and blessing for me to be in this place of my healing path. And I feel like it is so magical. And yeah, I'm just so full of gratitude actually for it. It just blows me away all the time, every day. But stepping back in time, in 2006, I was diagnosed with MS. And I had two young kids. My son was 6 and my daughter was 4 or 3. I don't remember right in that range. And yeah, it was a super scary time, obviously, whenever you get a big diagnosis like that. And you have young children. And so you feel like you have very big decisions to make about your wellness. And yeah, I ended up embarking on a full natural treatment path that sort of just unfolded for me. It was never actually my intention to begin with. Um, but I kind of say it was by accident. And then that door opened and it was so powerful. And then I just kept going down that natural treatment modality road. And I got my degree in holistic nutrition, and then I opened a restaurant, and then I opened two other food businesses, and then I built some food brands, and they were super successful and incredible. I was an incredible gift of that chapter of my life, and I did that for about a decade. But while I was so busy, like making the healthiest food for Boulder and super proud of the community and that I had fostered and all of those good things, I was actually slowly dying inside. And I didn't have any connection to that. I didn't recognize it. I didn't have a feeling of these range of emotions, even though I also had a terribly traumatic childhood. But I had gone to therapy and I had done EMDR and I thought that I had like dealt with all that. It wasn't things that came into my daily like window of experience. Like I dwelled on like, my mommy issues or anything
Right.
like that. I thought that I had fully like overcome all that. And I lived a very tight structured life. Like my lifestyle was incredibly restrictive and my diet was incredibly tight and very focused and my whole lifestyle modalities were incredibly rigid. And it was like the only way I could keep my life in balance was to maintain this like deeply constrictive life. And while I felt like it was like I was living the dream because I thought it was all perfect.
Yeah.
The stories we tell ourselves.
Yes.
Until it wasn't anymore. And I had this deep truth bomb realization that landed in my body with such clarity and truth and strength that it was undeniable. And I just couldn't go forward another day. And so I did the unthinkable, and I closed everything quite suddenly in like 4 days' notice once I made the decision and I made the realization that I couldn't go another day. And as the case may be, you don't close businesses like that, especially a restaurant or a food business. That's a very big no no. And so then I spent a year dealing with the consequences of that decision. And because the consequences were vast and deep and very difficult. And so, yeah, it precipitated this dark night of the soul, if you will. I almost hate that term because it's sort of like misused in some ways by those who haven't actually experienced it
Yeah.
themselves, I think. And so it's hard for those from the in the outside to really fully understand the depths that you go to when you're in the darkest place ever that a human can possibly go. And yeah, all of that, all of those traumatic experiences to close the business that I loved, and I spent a decade just giving everything I had to. Yeah, it just was incredibly damaging, and it ended up resulting in a divorce and a bankruptcy and just all of the most terrible things that could possibly happen, at least to me. Obviously, there's a range of terrible that we all can experience, but that was my terrible. And I ended up in Costa Rica and alone by myself in the jungle. And I started to do some healing work with these two beautiful healers here. And none of any of that whole thing that I just shared with you, that intimate story of mine, had anything to do with multiple sclerosis. It was all these other things. Like MS was like the furthest thing from my mind, you know? Um, it wasn't in any way, had no bearing on the pain that I was in. And then when I started working with these women and I was in a hardcore mentorship, really trying to like reconcile what had happened and how this all unfolded for me and what brought me then to this dark place in the middle of the jungle by myself. And as I started doing this work and engaging in this mentorship to try to heal and understand that, then strangely, suddenly, as I started working on these things, like my nervous system, then all of a sudden my MS and my food and my everything else on that side of things shifted so dramatically that it was jaw dropping. It was like without me even trying. It was never even something that I was even looking at. And that was so weird to me because I was so used to going directly into the thing, like fixing your food and fixing your lifestyle and your body care products and your sleep and your water and on and on and on and on, and that tightness. And instead, I started developing practices of expansion and releasing contraction and learning a whole new way to relate with my nervous system that was so enduring and lasting, and then affected change across my entire state of being that was, yeah, incredibly profound. So it's been a 3-year journey for me, but in that process, as I've taken a look at like how I can continue to be of service, because believe so deeply in helping people claim their own healing path. And primarily for 10 years, it was through food. And like that's incredibly powerful and super important, and a foundation of wellness. But all the same, I recognized like, wow, I think that I can share this, all of the range in which we heal with other people, and include in something that I don't think is brought enough attention to in the healing world is our connection to ourselves, having full alignment, coming into your truth, having a relationship with your nervous system and with these traumas and these emotions that we hold, and recognize that these traumas and emotions can express themselves as psoriasis or MS or cancer or high blood pressure or diabetes or depression or gosh, the whole range of human
Yeah.
illness spectrum, as the case may be. So I don't know, it was a long answer to your question, but
No, it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing your journey, and
yeah.
like there's just so much I mean, there's heartache in it, but there's so much beauty in it and there's so much hope in it, which I've just
Yeah,
found to be the cases so many times as we travel those dark nights of the soul or whatever, as we
yeah.
step onto a path that is so hard. Um, like my psoriasis was triggered by mold toxicity when we moved
Oh,
into this
yeah,
beautiful house.
totally.
Same sort of deal. Like I'm like, oh, I've done all the healing work. I'm doing so great. Everything's wonderful. And move into this beautiful dream come true house on Hilton Head Island. And I'm like, oh, we're living in my dream world. And then it was just like my knees were taken out from under me, right? Because we had no idea what was lingering in this house. But
Yeah.
um, you're right. I think so many times we are brought to our knees. We're just in but because then we're taken to this next level and not to scare people like, oh, when you get content, then your legs are going to be brought out from under you. That's not always the case. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of times I hear this story of we're ready to then elevate, if that makes sense.
100%. I completely agree with that. And I think I love that well, two things that you said. I for sure had a whole chapter of my healing path that was born in environmental illness as well, and the mold toxicity and all that. And mold can really, really mess you up, you know? I mean, there's
Yes.
no question about it. And it does force you to confront all kinds of things that you thought you knew about your body and about your environment. And yeah, so it's definitely a whole journey unto itself. But I also really appreciate what you said about the beauty of the healing path and the beauty of the darkness. And that a lot of us are, I think, afraid to go, and this kind of even goes full circle into some of these other darker things that we were sort of touching on, insofar as like the darkness lives in us as well as the light. And we can't fully experience the light without actually walking through the dark. And a lot of us in our healing path, we want it to be this, like, we're already in this dark place, we already feel terrible, and we want to just move through it or move around it or bypass it, or just like be over all of the hard stuff and just
Mhm.
get better and better and better and better and better. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like that's a natural inclination, but sometimes we should be looking at health as a spiral and not as a linear path. And that sometimes we spiral down as much as we spiral up. Like sometimes you have to spiral back down into a darker place in order to come up to a higher place, as you were saying, than you were before your actual health diagnosis, your realization, or your aha, or whatever. And also recognizing that sometimes going into these dark places within is part of the healing path in life. And it's super connected to our physical healing as well. You know, these aligning, these deeper psychological healing or emotional healing is super interconnected with our physical well-being as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it certainly was it was an aha moment in so many ways for me because, right, exactly what you just said. It helped me connect with myself on a level that well and recognize things in myself again, the anger piece of it, that's when that came up, like, oh, okay, maybe I do have to deal with that, like it's time for me to and not deal with it, that's I don't want to mean it that way, it's time for me to sit with it and hold it and be with it and really welcome it and comfort it and be like, it's okay that you feel this. And yeah, so anyway.
Yeah, well, but I think that that's such a valuable way of phrasing it as well, because I definitely had to do the same thing. I had to, in this process, it's like it is a beautiful process, but your nervous system really wants to heal, and it wants to express everything that it has never been able to express because of all of us clamping down with control and around, and our inability to access those states and all of these different variations of that. But sometimes we need to experience all the anger that we were never ever able to express before in order for it to be moved from our nervous system and allow our nervous system to expand into wholeness and wellness. The nervous system wants to express what it's been holding your whole entire life to keep you safe, and and then we have to learn to have a relationship with, like, the fear of experiencing the rage that like we couldn't experience when we were 10 years old.
Yeah.
And also the fear too, because sometimes, especially for women, it's hard for women to experience fear. So we'll transform fear into anger or fear into people pleasing or other things that are more available to us and feel safer to do. And so we will morph fear into other things that are more acceptable, but it's not the same as actually going to that place and feeling all those other things and creating a relationship with those sensations as well, recognizing that when they come up and they are felt, then they pass through and they move. And then it's kind of like having a good cry. And after you have a good cry, you feel so much better. It's like cathartic in and of itself. And so, and I think it's about learning that expansion and learning how to hold the emotions that we do feel as humans in our human experience.
Yeah. I tell you, it really quick funny story. So I love the beach. It's just I find the ocean, the Pisces in me, being around the water. But as I've done more healing work, being out in open spaces, I start to like feel very exposed. And then so I'm working through all of that, like that fear of open spaces. But so one of my therapists was telling me, and this was a couple of years ago, um, just take a wiffle ball bat out with you and just beat the sand with it and like move that through you, right? And it was like that anger. We were dealing with anger at the time. And so there I'd be, trudging all the stuff out to the beach and had my wiffle ball bat in hand. And there were times that I would literally just wail on because I'm not going to hurt anything. I mean, some sand will fly up in the air, but it was very cathartic. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I was like so angry. Like, why am I suddenly afraid of the beach? Like, why? And I let it just surface and just bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, I think that what you just said is actually it's a funny story, but it's actually true. In our ancient cultures, we had a lot of ways of actually moving energy through our body and like drumming circles or
Mm,
like dancing and like not dancing like ballroom dancing, but like literally dancing, physical movement, and chanting and all sorts of different ways in indigenous cultures. They actually recognize that we do need to move energy through our body. And it's a little bit different than like getting a sweat on and going and having like a cardio workout. I mean, of course, that's helpful as well, but this is a different way because you're deeply getting in touch with your emotion as you're experiencing the sand and the wiffle ball and nature, and you're just letting it rip. And I think we should hold more space for that to be not this. Yes, it's a funny story, but also it's an incredibly cathartic and healing experience too. And so, yeah, I love that story.
no,
I've
thank
had
you.
my own version of that.
That's awesome. Well, I certainly want to give you an opportunity to maybe touch upon. I mean, there were so many things as I read through. I was like, oh, we can talk about this. Oh, we can talk about that. Um, so I'll let you kind of direct. Is there something in particular, like some words of wisdom you want to leave people with, or anything you wanted to talk about and touch upon that we haven't had a chance to?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Really, what I'd really love to do is just invite people to reflect on how their emotional state within and their connection to their emotional state, and whether or not they feel as if they have the full range of emotions and emotional experience. And whatever the answer to that question is, how that may be showing up in their lives as a constriction in a way that is blocking their fullest expression of their own vitality. Whether that is in a health condition or a mental condition, or how does that show up in their relationships or their connection to drama or their connection to their community or any number of things like that. But once we start to go in and pay attention to these things, I think that hopefully we start to see the ways in which our lack of awareness about our nervous system and our emotional capacity is actually governing so many other states of our well-being. And if we go in and really start to embrace these nervous system sort of responses, that the healing of our body will be a natural consequence of that, without us even trying to go and tinker with the health. But if we go first and tinker with the nervous system and the traumas that we hold, that then the body will reorganize itself all by itself and naturally on its own.
Yeah, well, you just answered my next question, which was, so do you work with people just who are maybe experiencing MS or other physical ailments? But I love what you said, is that if you work with the nervous system, it's amazing how then the physical body reacts to that balancing. Yeah,
Yeah, for
and the
sure.
spiritual. I mean, there's a spiritual component, right? It's that holistic healing approach.
Yeah, it is. I do. I work with people with all health conditions that recognize that, well, have a deeper sense that they are worthy of more and experiencing more of life and more of their own vitality, and they aren't stepping into the full expression of who they are in this lifetime and the only lifetime. And so this is true. Like, we do have it within ourselves to honor what's happening inside. And I love what you said about the soul too, because the soul is, that soul work is something that resides within us, and it's not external to us. It's an essential part of who we are and our life experience. And so bringing that into alignment with our mental self and our body self and our emotional self, and our psychological self, like bringing everything into alignment really allows us to blossom into our fullness as humans.
Yeah, beautifully put. And
Yeah.
I love that idea, yeah, of alignment. And it is amazing how things, when you just start to even work on one of those aspects, and it just start like the body's like, oh, okay, we're doing like
Yes.
we're feeling better about it all.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
totally true. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
really
yeah.
magical, actually. It's like the most, it's such an honor for me to witness, and it's such a humbling thing to participate in, yeah, being witness to somebody's own sense of like their own health awakening, and recognizing it is within their own power to facilitate these healing processes within themselves. And that's a really powerful place to it's powerful to witness, and it's an honor to witness. And it's a beautiful thing.
Awesome. Well, you are certainly an inspiration to me. I love your work. I mean, as a
Thank you.
transformation guide, and just so much wisdom. So thank you for being here and sharing your insights. It's just been such a
Well,
gift.
thank you for the invitation. I feel honored, and I'd love to be able to talk about this work. I feel like it should be discussed more freely and openly, and I hope that your work is also beautiful. But I hope that we can continue to have these conversations and spread the awareness that people should start to pay more attention to their nervous system and their emotional capacity.
Yeah, for sure. So now how do
Yeah.
folks find you and connect with you and work with you?
Yeah, thank you. You can just connect with me on my website, christineruch.com. It's the name Christine, and my last name is Ruch. And you can connect with me. You can email me. You can book a call with me. I give freely of my time in that regard, and I also write about the healing process and all of the ways in which we heal, on my Substack.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, again, it's just been such a delight. Thank you for your beautiful light that you shine into the universe, and for
Thank
being
you. I
here. I'll have
appreciate
to have you
that.
come back on.
I would love that. Well, it would be such an honor. Thank you so much.
Yes, for sure. I know I have so many more questions, and I'm like, oh, we don't,
Okay, part two.
part
Stay
two,
tuned.
exactly. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock here. Just wanted to thank you again for being a part of this healing space and my hashtag hope for healing journey. Thank you for sharing, liking, inviting others to join, listening in. You've really helped this show blossom. It has now been downloaded in 136 countries and is in the top 2% globally out of 3.2 million shows, which is just amazing. And it's all because of you and your tuning in and inviting others and sharing and liking and loving. And Your reviews on Apple really help too. My goal is to hit 100 5-star reviews by the end of the year, and I am closing in on that. So if you are listening in on Apple or Apple Podcasts, please go and rate the show and leave a review if you absolutely love it. And I would be most appreciative. Also, if you would like to receive my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, please be sure to go to teriwellbrock.com. It's Teri, just one R, WELLBROCK.com. And I have a gift to send you for signing up for that monthly Hope for Healing newsletter. Plus, there are many other resources listed on that page, including a resource library. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.